Good afternoon, everyone. What a pleasure it is to meet you all. My name is Dr. Ali Fennick, and I am a professor of organizational behavior, a board advisor, and a speaker on the future of work. It is a great honor to be here today to address you during the start of your new studies and to help you prepare for the coming year. I know this must be very exciting times for you, but also worrisome times as well with all that is happening in the world. I want to talk to you today about the power of connection and why being socially connected is so important during this pandemic. I want to share with you some of my thoughts on how the global pandemic is creating more distance and less connection, and why this is so damaging to us as a society. The title of my presentation is called Physically Distant, but Socially Connected. And the reason why I chose this title is because keeping physical distance is important to prevent the further spread of the virus, but being mentally, physically, and emotionally connected is what will keep us happier, safer, and healthier. Now, in recent months, as a behavioral scientist, I've been at the forefront of the pandemic, studying human behavior, not only to provide a behavioral perspective to the various phenomena we have witnessed across the world, but also to provide direction on how to deal with the ongoing uncertainty that still awaits us. I speak regularly about these developments on global news channels and in the media to provide people with insights and strategies on how to deal effectively with the pandemic and its impact on society and work. Now, it's clear that we're living in challenging and unsettling times. In a matter of 4 months, our lives have been turned upside down. A novel invisible virus, better known as COVID-19, has infected millions of people across the world and killed hundreds of thousands of people along the way. The coronavirus has also caused for a lot of uncertainty in the world. Uncertainty in how to deal with the virus, how sick you will become if you get infected. Will you still have a job in the coming months? When will the next countrywide lockdown occur? And how soon will a vaccine be available for everyone? And it's natural that during these uncertain times, we also look up to our leaders for guidance and perspective. But we also know that they don't have all the answers to the questions that currently concern us. This mounting uncertainty affects people in various ways and has been a cause for many interesting behavioral phenomena across the world in recent months. Now, you are by now all very aware of the term social distancing, a term I personally dislike and believe to be a wrong choice of words. We human beings are social by nature, and telling us not to socialize goes against our core need to connect. Connecting and interacting with other social ties such as work, friends, families, and yes, even your social network contacts is not only for fun. We derive a lot of meaning, identity, and a sense of security from the social groups we engage with. In other words, there is a psychological need to connect with others to help understand who we are and where we belong. For some, affiliation to the group can be so strong that without it, people can feel anxious and disconnected. What's important to know is that group values, beliefs, and behaviors can affect individual behavior so strongly that some people go along with what the group wants, even when the individual might not want to initially. It's therefore not surprising that many people don't adhere to social distancing measures. Another issue I have with the term social distancing is the fact that most people have associated social distancing with not going to work or maybe not going to school. In our heads, not going to work or not going to school equals playtime. So we go out, we have fun, and guess what? We socialize. Surely playtime socializing doesn't mean social distancing, right? And this is exactly the issue with using the term social distancing, as not everyone can be expected to understand what it really means. Especially in these uncertain times, people seek to be with others to feel safe. Instead of using the term social distancing to indicate taking distance from each other, I strongly plead we use a more effective term that is easier to understand. I suggest we start using the term physical distancing instead. This way, people can associate distance with physical proximity without compromising our fundamental need to connect. Now, besides social distancing, the pandemic has also brought about some other very interesting phenomena. We all remember when shelter-in-place measures were put into effect, how people went to the supermarkets to panic buy, believing that both essential and non-essential goods would go out of stock. The notorious toilet paper made global headlines with videos on social media of people fighting to buy the last pieces of toilet paper like their lives depended on it. To go into detail about the reasons why toilet paper is such a hot item during pandemics goes a little bit beyond the scope of today's video, but the concept of panic buying in general is not so surprising. When we deal with an uncertain or threatening situation, our brains go into survival mode, which makes us act much more irrational. And when we don't know what to do, we tend to follow other people, especially other people similar like us. So when we see other people panic, we also start to panic. So as you can see, even our irrationalities have a social component to it as well. Working from home has become the new norm for many workers across the world during the pandemic. Some companies like Twitter, Hitachi, and Fujitsu have even made remote work a permanent option for their employees. A great response by corporations to adapt to the times. However, we also have to be mindful of the fact that most people actually can't work from home. Even in the developed countries like the US and Japan, 65% to 70% of employers can't facilitate working from home setups due to the nature of the job. Think, for example, of businesses like hotels, restaurants, hospitals, construction, and factories. People need to be on the ground. Now, just imagine how few people can work from home in emerging markets like Brazil, India, and Nigeria, and the impact that the coronavirus is having on their lives. Now, from a personal perspective or personal level, shelter-in-place measures and working from home have also had their toll on relationships, marriages, and families. Being locked up for months at home can be challenging, and recent studies have shown an increase in divorce rates and domestic violence. Being cooped up at home for long periods of time can challenge even the best of people. Especially in countries like Hong Kong and Japan, the average living space is about 45 square meters. Now, another unintended consequence of the lockdown measures is the impact on mental health and well-being. Cases of anxiety and depression have increased significantly during the pandemic. Working or living alone for long periods of time can negatively affect your cognitive performance, your emotional state, and even lower your immune response. Attributes you need to have to fight off a possible COVID-19 infection. This just shows how important it is to be socially connected and how powerful togetherness is for our minds and for our bodies. And finally, probably the most disturbing phenomena we've seen in recent months has been the uprising of polarization and social divide across the globe due to political, racial, and economical tensions. The uncertainty and fear that the coronavirus has sparked in many of us has also become a feeding ground for latent beliefs about us versus them, creating even more divide in the minds of people who are just looking for direction, security, and belonging. So how do we change things around? How do we become more socially connected when we're told to be physically distant from each other? Well, it requires a change in perspective. Instead of looking beyond, we need to start to look more from within and between to find direction, safety, strength, and belonging. The current situation very much reflects our existence in past times. When we lived in tribes and settlements, we naturally relied on the tribe for companionship, for food, for shelter, and for safety. We were bonded through culture, through stories, norms, and rituals, and were able to sacrifice personal needs for the benefit of the group. Such a mindset is very much needed today, not only to collectively prevent the spread of the virus, but also to ensure we come out of this much more stronger. So how to put this into practice? First and foremost, staying connected to friends, families, and loved ones, even when isolated at home, is of utmost importance. We need these connections to make sense of what's going on, to feel safe, to maintain emotional stability, and even boost physiological properties to fight off a possible infection. Now, technology can help us to stay connected even when distanced, but we have to remember that technology doesn't replace connection, rather it facilitates it. Second, we also need to actively create environments, be it physical or virtual, where different people feel part of a community. Environments which invite diversity and inclusion and help create a common cause and identity for people from all walks of life to connect to. This type of connection allows individual differences to flourish while staying true to common values and goals, regardless of age, race, religion, or orientation. Third, culture has become paramount in these uncertain times. If anything outside that binds us is changing, then we have to start focusing on what binds us from within. Cultural values are the driving force which connects, drives, and inspires people to a common purpose in a meaningful manner. Culture is also an important factor to build mental resilience, and it is the invisible glue that helps us stick together in difficult times. And finally, knowing that our environment has changed so abruptly, we have to also let go of what we once believed to be true. This also means that we need to develop new habits to help us adjust to new realities, be it working from home, setting up clear boundaries, homeschooling, sports, study, or hobbies. Finding what works for you is equally important as it is for building stronger connections. How can you be a strong connector if you haven't sharpened your hook? Now, as my time is running out, I want to leave you with one final thought. What do you think will happen tomorrow? And are you ready to deal with more new realities? Will there be a second lockdown in the coming months? Could the stock market crash and create the next global financial crisis? Or could the coronavirus mutate into something much more deadlier? Many uncertainties which potentially lay in front of us and have the ability to change how we continue to study, work, travel, and live. We need to start embracing change as the new normal and accept that disruption is happening at every cornerstone of our society. But what the pandemic has taught us so far is that building mental, emotional, and physical resilience is something best done together. As we prepare for the future, let's go back to what makes us fundamentally human, our need for connection, and let's start harnessing the power of the collective to be better prepared for tomorrow. I wish you all the best with your coming studies at Hogeschool Rotterdam, and I hope that your new educational tribe will help you to build strong and meaningful connections and help you to develop your abilities to be better prepared for new realities. Thank you for listening.